Well, here we are. It is 2:15 right now. It was 2:15 3 years ago when I found her. The motivation for this is, I'm going to come right out and say, selfish. It was wonderful people that we met in Alamos. I mean, people who will stay friends for a lifetime. I miss that place more than I can easily put into words. But it was just strange to be saying these things to people who had only met her a month or two prior. All the people who were responsible for the story that ultimately resulted in us being together. And so it's kind of funny because, here I am back in Pittsburgh, and memorial's taking place in a basement room. There was a story that I tried to tell during Kristen's live memorial. Unfortunately, with her not there, I was on the clock with the kids, so I wasn't really able to get much of any coherent thoughts out, if I even had any to speak of. But there was a story that I was trying to tell that I didn't do well, that needs repeating. I was addressing the mostly Christian crowd and explaining to them my thesis that when I was a child, I was raised Protestant. I remember being told the first two commandments were, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second commandment was like the first one, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I made the case that I thought Jesus was playing a little sleight of hand there, hiding a little esoteric truth that we have to discover on our own. And that is that these are one and the same commandment, actually. Kristen would often say, oh, through loving you, I worship God. And that's what our lives were. That's why we got through everything that we did. Maybe you need to experience that kind of love firsthand to understand why we need it around us. I mean, it's nowhere anymore. I mean, I should be around my friends right now, and I wish that I could say, I mean, look where we're at. We've never been further apart from each other. Kristen and I eventually came to understand that we were essentially, for lack of a better term, the model. Not that we were perfect or higher than anybody else, just when you have that kind of intense connection with someone, anything is possible. And it's because of that we survived trials that it's amazing to think that we went through them. I mean, some of you know some of the things that happened to us in the intervening years. I don't really want to get into too many of the details now for various reasons, but I mean, I'll say at least that we were homeless for quite a while. Actually, technically, for almost the entire time we were in Colorado, the year and 10 months, I think it was. For most of that time, we actually fit the legal definition of homelessness. It was only maybe about a 2-month period that it was completely physical. There's legal grades of what's considered being homeless. I'm not going to get into it, but there was a period of about 2 months when we were living out of a tent. And the thing about it was, you'd you'd think you'd think me crazy for saying this, but it was the most wonderful time of my life. Every day was survival, but we had each other, and that just made, life was never more rich. Just waking up, crawling out of the tents, actually feeling the morning air. And knowing that despite our situation, we were managing still day by day to take care of everybody. And I'm fairly proud to say that no matter what has ever happened, as far down as we fell, our children never wanted. Every day, one way or another, we found a way to feed and take care of them. Little troopers they are. I was writing out some time ago what had happened to me in the last 10 years, 10, 20 years. I forget all the things I mentioned. It's been a few years now. But she was a friend of mine who didn't really know my backstory all that well. So one day I just let loose and just for about 2 hours straight, just like typed like a wind. And I got to a certain point where I just stopped and looked at my story, and suddenly I didn't believe it. I knew these things had happened, and I couldn't believe they had all happened. Trying to pick out any one thing about Kristen, any one thing we experienced or a part of her personality, or picking any one element of it, none of it really cuts. None of it really captures her. I have a theory that the most important days of a person's life are the first several days after they've died. Because it's in that time that we all come to the collective realization of what we lost. When I think of I don't like even saying lost because, she's still with me so strong. But when I think of her not being here anymore, I just don't even know where to start. To say the least, Kristen had a fairly rough background herself. Went through all kinds of amazing things, even before she met me. All that really made her as amazing as she was just the fact that she wasn't afraid of feeling, of experiencing. She kept herself open to the universe at all times. She kept herself open to me at all times. She wasn't afraid of intensity. She wasn't afraid of pushing herself, of finding the broken spots within her and doing what's necessary to eradicate them, no matter the pain. I deduced some time ago that people are more afraid of intense pleasure than they are of intense pain. Why is the case? I'm not even going to try to figure that out right now, but it's something I do believe. She wasn't afraid of either. She taught me not to be. It's intense pain every day without her. But because of the richness in which we lived our lives, it's an intense pain that I'm at peace with always having. It's hard to explain that if it doesn't make sense intuitively. There was a convenience store I used to work at a long time ago, Unimart in Wilkinsburg. One day, years after, I drove by and saw it shut down, and I was so sad. And so my friend, why is that? Like, 'cause I spent some of the worst times of my life there. They said it tongue in cheek, but that's the kind of thing that made sense to us. I learned so much from her. She taught me, for one, most important single rule I ever learned from her. It's about the millionth time you've heard it, but from her, the phrase "trust your instinct" went to another level. She got me to fully accept that Kristen got me to accept about myself that there are no good and bad sides to yourself. Everything that's a part of you, you have in you for a reason. As a result, there's no part of you that's wrong. There can never be a part of someone that's wrong. There's parts that might not be working as well as you would like them to do, but the things that were put into you, the things that make you you, every last one of them is there for a reason. She got me to accept all of myself in a way that no one ever has before. And I was lucky enough to be able to give the same to her. We eventually just formed a bubble. We were pretty conscious of the fact. We were in our own little world, and we were quite happy about it. When we got the news and she only had a few weeks left, me and Kristen were originally hit. The first question that came to mind is, why did we go through all that just to land here? At first we thought that it was because that's where I was supposed to be spending the rest of my life. I repeat, I do miss Alamosa. I felt such peace there. But what really comes to mind, for me, taking a second there, it's very hard to keep all my thoughts on this straight. Right from the start, me and Kristen's relationship, first year together, I right from the start, we were constantly broke. We were constantly desperate. We moved literally. Like I did a count of like all the places we actually laid our head down to sleep in our time together, and we moved more than 20 times in the less than 10 years we were together. And the place that she died in the only stable home we've ever had. About a month and a half before things just finally straightened out enough. I mean, we just pushed and finally managed to score an apartment in almost this tiny little thing with virtually no windows whatsoever. There was like literally 2 windows in the entire thing, and one of them was maybe about this wide. But oh god, it was so quiet. It was so peaceful there. And the thing is, we got to know that. Me and Kristen, of all people, managed to get the nuclear family with almost everything. The picket fence is the only thing we didn't get. It was a chain fence, and kind of true to ourselves. It wasn't really an effective fence because it kind of, like this is our apartment, it went around the apartment in a spiral. So you could stand here, run a complete circle, and wind up on the other side of the fence. So it was completely useless as a fence. But other than that, very characteristic weirdness. I mean, we made it. And we got to, even if it was only for a few weeks, we got to experience it. And we got to know a life that matched our ideals, that fit with all the things that we really wanted. And over the years, that became less and less material. It's rather hard to be talking about all these things with everything that's going on. It's close to just skipping this just because, I mean, we're all just so far away from each other. I mean, again, here I am, in my little concrete room talking to old friends or maybe people who knew secondhand through her or something like that. And right now, this is really about as close as it's possible to get. I mean, I'm consciously hiding away, and I know there's some people who would like for me to come out, but I can feel. I can tell the difference between a real empath and one who's just kind of in it for the like new agey status symbol. Yeah, it comes along with that. And as a true empath, half the time really does not want their job. I mean, I can hear emotional energy as easily as I can hear everything in this room and the cars going on outside. And God, it's just horrible out there. And it's very hard to feel safe coming out of my room. It's exactly what I don't want to see. It's exactly the opposite of the way me and Kristen lived our lives. So I'll use the "hey, this is for me" as a way to do this, because I really would like something like a real memorial for Kristen. Kristen was the first human being who knew what to do with me. And anyone who spent any amount of time around me knows that's a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I'll say it's for me, because I need to hear what she was to other people. I need to hear it in their words and their experiences. Stories that maybe I never even heard before, or things that she did that that I forgot about. Just what she looked like to other people. I do need that confirmation, even though the more I hear it, the more I wonder how the heck I ever became worthy of someone like that. But it is for me, but I want to say it's for us. We need to reestablish these connections again. We need to remember what the people in our lives have been to us. We need to remember how important we are to each other. I don't want to turn this into a lecture, but I just wasn't even sure if I should even do this when I'm feeling all the love that we had and I'm feeling all the hate around me. But that's the answer to it. Do me a favor tonight and remind me what an unbelievable human being I managed to nab. I miss her horribly every day. But it really is a good pain. It's one that makes enough sense to me that I know how to turn it into light now. A few days before she died, I posted that I was in tears, but it wasn't tears of sadness, it was tears of gratitude. I would not change a thing. So grateful for the time we had together. As long as I'm here, she'll be a part of me. Tell me your stories about her. Let me hear what she meant to you. I've asked for very few, little of anything since I've gotten back, and right now this can be one of the best gifts you can give me. Thanks everyone for watching.